What do you think of Abraham Rasool being...
Yeah, no, again, tying on that, we need business people and very good business people in our professional franchises. We certainly don't need politicians. And Abraham Rasool, it's a bolt from left field, but it's also, they are aligned. There's administrators are aligned to him. It's a very different kind of old boys club that's been formed there. And I don't think it's good for Western Province Rugby, and it's certainly not good for South African rugby. And Province at the moment, on all levels, is coming across as a shambles and a mess.
Yeah, I agree. And though saying that, I still think that the offer of the $6 million for controlling stake in Western Province is a bit low.
I also think it's undervalued, and it's those pushing for that particular deal, I think are seen it as, here's a franchise in distress, let's get in now, and that's what these guys are seeing, and let's build this up, and you get the systems right, you get the results, with the sponsorships, all of a sudden that value, and they go north next year, that value becomes a hell of a lot more. So I'm not necessarily opposed to them not taking that deal, but I believe they have to look for a private equity partner or someone who comes in and has ownership of that and completely changes the dynamic of the franchise and also of the union. And especially with them going to play in the Northern Hemisphere, and they would be a huge draw card. The Stormers, like the Sharks, they're very popular brands in the North. Yeah,
it's just unbelievable when you think about it, that Western Province and the Stormers are controlled by an amateur arm.
Yeah, and it goes back to the 90 clubs that make up Western Province Rugby. And they attempted to kind of, when they had the professional arm, for the Stormers to be a professional franchise, but it never, the umbilical cord was never cut.
No.
And so the 90 clubs were still controlling the professional arm. And the professional arm felt that they were duty bound to the 90 clubs. And when professional rugby launched here, the Stormers should have been a separate franchise, should have had no affiliation with Western Province outside of paying them if they were contracting players from them, and also giving something to developmental funds and grassroots rugby in the province. As you would have in soccer, Manchester United, Manchester City, they're not responsible for the amateur game in Manchester.
No.
They invest in it because they look at the players that could come through, but they're not bound by amateur traditions and amateur ethos and codes from several hundred clubs.
And amateur people making decisions.
No. Without a doubt, yeah.
So
Province, just lots has to happen. I know there's a lot of unhappiness with players.
Where's the tipping point? I mean, it usually comes around when I mean, if you're a Stormers player now, every week you're reading whether you're going to get paid or not. You can understand the frustration from a player's point of view, and also from Dobson's point of view, trying to coach and bring that team together when the players are hearing in the media, there may not be a paycheck at the end of the month. It must be quite distracting.
Yeah, I read that this, again, in report on Sunday, that there was the potential of a player revolt. And players are kind of saying either this deal gets done or they're out. I have an issue with that.
I do too.
Because the minute a player starts dictating, that player is going to be gone in a year in any case.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get a good offer and he's going to go overseas. So let's forget the specifics of the deal, and let's say in principle the player has a right to speak.
Yeah.
And say, I need to see some form of clarity. I need to know that the sponsors are still going to be there. I need to know that the franchise is going in a certain direction for me to commit to here for the next 2 or 3 years. But when players start dictating terms, it's just a downward spiral. And I think what's happened here is because there's been no rugby. And I think at the moment when you get someone like Dobbo, whose character is that he just wants the best for the region, he wants the best for various things. He's kind of playing a CEO role, a director role, a coaching role, a director of coaching role. And unfortunately, his primary focus has to be build a winning team, get on that field this year and next year, be successful, create some history when the Lions come and open their tour on the 3rd of July next year at the Cape Town Stadium and beat them, and kind of do all that talking there. But it must be a minefield for him to navigate at the moment, given the uncertainty and also I think just the ambiguity in everything that gets done there.
So how is Zelt doing? Who's before the, who's that?
Othello.
Yeah.
Well, again, Zelt comes from a very different kind of background to Othello. Zelt has his supporters, he's got his detractors, but what he's gone back and he's reinvested in the club structure. And that is where the big bone of contention is coming at the moment. So, again, Ibrahim Rasool's appointment will be linked to Zelt's influence, and are they building their own cabal, which they accused others of previously? It does look like that. He'll probably come out and say it's not like that. Ibrahim Rasool is the right choice. I just don't know how he could be the right choice. What has he done or ever done to be aligned with rugby and to be aligned with a successful professional rugby arm? Nothing.
Nothing that I know of. I could be speaking ignorantly, but nothing.
Well, I know Zelt does watch us, so he'll probably give us a call and tell us. And then if he does,
Yeah.
then we can report that.
Absolutely. Zelt, if there's something I'm missing, give me a jingle. Mark, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.